Well, good morning. Welcome to you on this cold end of the March morning. I'm Dave Beam, and we're here to look at another distinction. We're in the 2025 Distinction Series, and the one we're looking at this morning is the person versus the performance. And you might be a little surprised where we go with this. This is going to become very practical. It sounds a little psychological this morning, but we're going to have a lot of fun with this, and I think I'll give you a lot of practical ideas on what to do. My thanks to Portsmouth, Ohio, and Maysville, Kentucky, for their chambers and the fact that they sponsor these. What it means is they really just promote them in their newsletters and in their communication with their membership, and we appreciate that partnership. This is a give back. I've been doing coaching for about 24, 25 years, and this is my give back to the community. I've been doing it for a long time, and I just love doing these. So for 30 minutes, we're going to take a closer look at this subject. So here's the series. We've got identity versus behavior coming up, process versus outcome, important versus urgent, message versus response, agreement versus expectation, commitment versus intention, testing versus trying. That one's interesting. The tool versus the rule, and serving versus pleasing. So 30 minutes every month. We get here on the last Wednesday of the month and give you a little something to chew on, think about, and maybe some practical help on how to improve things. Um, we always start here with the rules of the game. If you want to enjoy a game, if you want to do well at a game, if you want to really win a game, you need to know the rules. And so I always provide these at the beginning of my programs to help you get the most out of this. You're giving 30 minutes of your life, of your time, to this thought process today. And I want to make sure that you get the most out of it. So the way to do that is to follow the rules. So let's give you those rules. First of all, this is my cornerstone classic rule: owner versus victim. I want you to think about people nowadays, people really in about any day or any part of history. This is two different ways of thinking. This is a thinking rule. If you think as a victim, it's always somebody else's fault. It's always circumstances. There's always an excuse and a reason, supposedly, that I can't achieve what I need to achieve. I can't get done what I need to get done. I never take the ownership for it or the responsibility, my ability to respond, or the accountability. Sometimes a victim is just totally in denial. They just procrastinate or they just put it out of their minds. You may have things right now in your life and in your business and in your job that you're avoiding and you're putting to the back burner. That would be a victim mindset. All of us are owners and victims at different times in life and different seasons. I'm encouraging you during this half hour to own this. Take responsibility. Say, if it's to be, it's up to me. I'm here to learn something to improve myself, first of all, so that I can potentially help other people improve. We can't change other people, but if they're open to it, we can help them get better. And I want to be in a position, that's my career, that's my passion, to be able to help people improve performance. That's what coaching is about. Second, 100% in. Put your phones away. The things that you're thinking about here during the day, put that behind you and give this your full attention. And don't have an I know. We're going to talk about some familiar things. I've got some amazing people online today that have a lot of experience. Some of them have much more experience than I do in people management. And that experience can be a real benefit to you, but it also can be a hindrance. You have to put behind you the things that you know so that you can have an open mind and an empty cup ready to be filled with something you don't know. That is a mindset. That's a choice. And if you'll do those three things and then just have some fun with me today and not take ourselves way too seriously, you'll have an amazing 30 minutes. And I think you'll learn a lot and you'll gain a lot and you'll hopefully get some of those blinding flashes of the obvious that will help you. So with that said, let's move into this. Just going to tackle the subject right off the bat of this distinction. We're talking about the person versus the performance. Through the years of coaching and helping people, what I've seen is that most people are very attached to their performance. They evaluate themselves and even their identity in the world with what they do, their job. Maybe it's a mother, maybe it's a brother, maybe it's a chemical technician, maybe it's a nurse. I don't know what your job is. I don't know what your roles are, but you are not your role. And as a manager, this is one of the goals of this morning, one of those amazing little truths that are simple and self-evident, but you just don't think about it. I want you to see the key to helping people get better is treating them different from their performance and helping them to see the difference between their performance and them as a person. So let me help you with that a little more. I've got a scoreboard up there as a picture on the PowerPoint. The person is not their performance. This is an issue of identity. And the example of an athlete and his scorecard. I'm a golf fan. I'm not a golfer, but I enjoy watching golf. I'm looking forward to the Masters this year coming up. And think about when you see that leaderboard, all of those folks have numbers by their name. They have measurements by their name. They have indicators that tell you how they're performing in that tournament. If you have an athlete that has been performing for a number of years, he will have a scorecard. He'll have statistics behind his name. All those statistics measure what that athlete has done. His wins, his losses, his successes, his failures in the game, how he's performing in that game. Good, extensive sports measure quite extensively different things people do in a game. And all those numbers and all of that adds up to say, this is the kind of fullback we have. This is the kind of golfer we have. And you can judge the performance based on those statistics. If you see that the statistics that define the person's performance is not defining the person, those are two different things. And I think sometimes when people go into people management and coaching, they want to be a pop psychologist and they want to deeply analyze the person. I'm suggesting a different model to you this morning, that you accept people. And that, dare I say it on something like this, you love people and you encourage people and you forgive people and you understand them, but maybe treat the performance differently. And if you can distinguish between the person and the performance, this opens up a way for you to have amazing results on your team. If you think about an actor that goes on stage, maybe a Broadway actor that goes on 150 some times in a row, and people come and they critique that actor, but they're really not critiquing the person. They're critiquing his performance or her performance. She is not her performance. Some nights she may perform well, some other nights she may not perform very well at all, but it is the same person. The person is the person, they're not their performance. There's an inner person, the heart and spirit, the passion, the values, the integrity, the honesty. And then there's the outer person, their thinking and their physicality. And that primarily, that outer person is what's performing, certainly driven by that inner person. But that is separate from the performance itself. And if you can see that distinction here, I'm going to move on. I don't want to belabor it, but that is the key to the rest of this morning's presentation. We're going to move to the next point. Since a person is not their performance, for you to be a great leader and coach or organizational leader, what you need is an objective accountability system in your business or in your organization or in your team. And what do we mean by that? Well, here goes. Now, Coach Dave is going to start his meddling now. There is no such thing as constructive criticism. Now, I'm sure we could debate that, but I do not believe, and I think by definition, if you really look at what critical thinking is and being critical, it is not designed to be constructive. It's destructive. It is useful for solving problems. Criticism, we need to be critical thinkers when we're dealing with an issue. We need to break it down and we need to pull it apart so that we can understand it. But criticizing a person is not useful, and it is usually very discouraging. People do not want to be criticized, and they do not feel good when they're criticized. And I think people kick back on accountability because that word sounds like a critical word. It sounds like we're going to criticize people. We are not going to criticize the person. This is what I'm proposing to you. We are going to critique the performance. And you need to coach your person to understand that they are not their performance, and they're going to gang up with you, and we're going to go at the performance together through a system of accountability that focuses on the performance. That's what's needed. And folks, if you're going to be an excellent leader, you're going to have an excellent organization, you need accountability. People need to be accountable for their performance, for what they need to get done. How do we have those conversations? How do we have that interaction in a way where we don't discourage and attack people? Well, we have to get the person to see that they are not their performance, and there is an agreement in our organization that we're going to improve performance. And to improve performance in the sports world, anywhere else, you have to critique the current performance. And an accountability system makes the system the heavy and not you as the manager and supervisor. And a great organization is going to do this universally. Everybody is going to be accountable and be coached and be looking at their performance. Organizational core values are a foundation for a great accountability system. What does that mean? Well, organizational leaders and key people need to collaborate and create what is most important for their organization. Ways of being that are absolutely essential and non-negotiable. I'll give you some examples. Honesty would be a core value that perhaps your organization holds up. Another version of that is integrity. Is it ever acceptable in this organization for us to be dishonest? No. Is it ever acceptable for us to not have integrity or transparency? No. If those are your core values, that's what's true. That is the foundation for accountability, core values. These are the shared values among the organization that everybody agrees to hold to and agrees to be held accountable to. This is still looking at performance and not the person. The person has to personally adapt those values, and they're going to perform in the context of those values. So I've seen organizations that have not had core values that anybody knows about. They might put something on the wall or in their marketing materials, but they've never really coached it and talked about it and led it. And when that happens, there's a transformation. People come together. I remember one organization, their chief core value was we're all in. That just means we're all going to participate 100% and give 110%. We are all in. Well, that phrase set the culture and the tone for that organization. If you were a person that worked there and you didn't want to be all in, you felt totally out of place and like you didn't belong. And those people typically didn't stay around because we're all in here. If you're here, you're going to be all in. That's just an example of a core value. Secondly, for each role in the organization, you need to establish, or there needs to be established, specific performance standards and a way to measure those standards called a scorecard. Now you're saying, Dave, if I'm talking to a small business person here, that's a lot of work. Yeah, it is. But if you want to be a pop psychologist and criticize people and run around and babysit, then you don't need a system of accountability. You just are going to drive yourself crazy trying to put up security cameras and track people's performance. Enough is enough. Put that aside. Get a system in place where everybody knows their job and they know what the standards are and they are going to be measured. And that is just the way the system works. There's no debating about it. There's no controversy about it. This is the way things work here. Then, once you have your core values and your specific performance standards established and defined and communicated, what you have now is you have regular coaching for performance improvement. Notice that we're focusing on performance. How do we determine if the performance needs improved or how it can improve? We're measuring, like in sports, we're measuring against a standard. It's an objective process. The coach at this point is a facilitator. They are bringing feedback based on the performance back to the performer to discuss and to see how we can improve effectiveness and efficiency. Objective feedback is given on the performance versus the standard. This job has certain standards of efficiency, certain standards of effectiveness or quality. It takes somebody who does the right thing, but also does it in an efficient manner. That can be measured. And when the performer or the employee, the team member, knows what the standard is, they are involved in the measurement of that, then they have a way to determine how they're doing. Not who they're doing, how they're doing. This is about the what more than the who. Well, what about all those core values, Dave? We'll talk about that in a minute, because we also are going to provide in this coaching subjective feedback on things like attitude, demeanor, tone, and energy. Everybody on this call knows that sometimes people can do a great job and have great numbers, but their attitude stinks and they have problems with people and there's drama, and they may be performing their job fairly well and the measurements look good, but they're not getting along. How do you deal with that, Dave, with an accountability system? Well, there's a lot of different techniques and tools. I like to use 360 feedback if it's done well. Now, if you do it wrong, it could be a train wreck. But if you do a good 360, what that provides is, as your manager and supervisor, I'm not just looking at your attitude or your tone or your energy. We're getting various people surrounding you in that 360 circle that work with you and get to know you, and they're giving feedback on all of that. And then we're compiling that, and then we're sitting down with you and giving you your scorecard on those issues. That's also how you can do core values. Are they displaying the values most of the time, some of the time, or not very often? In other words, we're trying to objectify very subjective things. And there are ways to do that. That there's a little bit of finesse to that, but a good coach knows how to talk about these things objectively and not make it so much about the feeling part. So, second component to having a great accountability system in an organization, in my opinion, is it needs to be 100% across the board. We need to have 100% participation. What do we mean by that? Everyone is going to be participating in accountability and coaching for performance improvement. In other words, we're going to have a culture and a system of performance improvement that everybody is participating in. Now, that sounds a little ideal, and I know that when you have a lot of turnover and you have a lot of changes, it's difficult to get some traction with this. I'm a real world coach, but I'll guarantee you one thing: if you don't try it and you don't go for it, you won't have any of it. So let's look at the ideal. Everyone must participate in this system that we create. Everybody's going to be measured. Everybody's going to be accountable to someone. Everybody's going to report, and everybody's going to set goals to improve across the board, top to bottom of the organization. Second, every team member is going to receive regular feedback, scorecard review, and goal setting. This is, again, objective. We're not criticizing the person here. This is not a time to sit down and tell somebody all their mistakes and run them down the road. This is a time to sit down and to look at the feedback and the results and the scorecard and the performance, and to set goals to improve that performance. Second key component, so that everybody's participating. New team members need to start, in my opinion, with a probationary period, maybe 30 days, maybe 90 days. And even somebody moving into a new job would be in this category for probationary coaching, for training and learning until they can meet minimum standards. So at that point, they're not going to be meeting standards, but they're going to be learning so that they can meet standards. And then finally, underperforming team members. Some people are not going to get it, and they're not adapt for the job, or they're not holding to the core values most of the time. They need to be moved into a formal training and discipline with HR involved to meet minimal standards, or they're going to be dismissed. And there needs to be a system for that as well. And in my view, the whole foundation to this is we're separating the person from the performance. We're not going to attack people. We're going to attack performance. We're going to evaluate and criticize and break apart performance so we can improve it. But we're not going to attack and criticize and tear apart people. I don't think we're analysts. I don't think we're qualified to go into the deep recesses of people's minds and emotions and try to analyze them. I think we need to analyze based on standards and a system, and let the system be the heavy. That's what I'm presenting to you this morning. So we have about 5 minutes left. I just want to ask you a few questions. And this is to help you really consider where you are in your current situation. How well is your team performing overall? What is the level of accountability in your organization? If you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what number would you give it? Do you have clearly communicated and stated core values and clear standards, measurable standards for each role in your organization or in your team? Here's another question. How do you measure effectiveness and efficiency? What is your measurement for quality and for efficiency? And finally, do your people see that they are not their performance? Do we have a culture that supports and encourages and accepts and forgives and understands and, may I say, loves people? But we are very rigorous and focused on performance as well. Folks, the two can be together. Most people want to be kind to people and they don't want to upset them, so they avoid the accountability. That's a disaster. Some people want to have accountability by being just a critic. And the two old guys are the two old Muppets in the balcony that just see the wrong with everything. That is not good accountability. That's a train wreck as well. There is an option. It's kind candor. It's having a clear feedback based on objective standards and values, communicated in a very kind and direct and clear way. It can happen. And so I want to help you make that happen. Here's my first offer. I'll send you the slides today so you can think more about this stuff. Just email me. Second, 300 articles, about 30 hours of training that go into detail on a lot of these issues on my website, free of charge. That'll help you. Go to the website, pick them up, get the links, and go watch them on YouTube. Third, if you want to take a first step with me and engage my services, please schedule that by emailing me a time and a day or the way we can get together at my email address and take that first step. And I'd be glad to come help your team or your organization with these issues, because this is my passion, to help organizations and businesses and people improve their performance. That's what coaches do. So with that said, I'm going to sign off here. And I thank you all for your attention today and look forward to our next endeavor next month. Bye-bye.